So my name is Aideen Ryan, and I'm a very passionate cancer researcher from the National University of Ireland in Galway. And my work focuses on activating immune cells to target colon cancer. So as part of my Irish Cancer Society funded fellowship, we have discovered new ways to activate immune cells, including the use of using immunotherapy in a new and different way to target colon cancer. And these results are forming the basis of a clinical trial right now, which we're very excited about, and I'll tell you a bit about how we got there. So the reason we do our research is because there is 2,500 Irish people diagnosed every year with colon cancer. If these patients are diagnosed at a very early stage, the survival statistics are very good at 90%. However, when cancer spreads past the area where it first began in the colon, if it spreads or metastasizes, the survival rate drops significantly. And these are the patients that we are working to help. So these patients have very limited options in relation to therapy, and the options that they do have often result in very difficult treatment side effects. In many instances, the chemo stops working and the cancer comes back. So obviously urgent treatments are needed. So what we plan to do is to use a different approach where we activate the body's own immune system to kill cancer. And the reason why we believe this is a good strategy is because of two things. Firstly, the immune system kills cancer cells in a different way to chemotherapy. And in the second instance, it actually remembers what the cancer cells look like if the cancer returns. And therefore, we believe this can overcome some of the current problems with the treatments that patients receive. So the way we do our research is that we grow cells in the lab and we look at how they communicate with each other. So using an analogy of a prisoner in disguise and a guard, in this instance, the cancer cell is the prisoner in disguise and the immune cell is the guard, and the cancer cell in green with the immune cell in blue, if we grow these together, what happens is the immune cell doesn't recognize the cancer cell. It escapes by disguise. When we have tried our new treatments, which we believe have a very promising future, we can see that we can uncover that cancer disguise, and the guard can now see the prisoner of the immune cell and it can catch it. And in this instance, you can see the green cancer cell inside the immune cell. So through these type of experiments, we have discovered two new ways to activate immune cells to kill cancer, one of which has led to a clinical trial, which I will tell you about at the end. So as the previous speakers have said, we communicate as scientists our research in many different ways. So we have been fortunate enough to communicate our research in 15 different journals, both scientific and medical. I've received numerous awards for research excellence, and we've been able to protect some of these new ideas by filing patents. I've also been involved in training 2 PhD students who will go on to have futures as cancer researchers. And the final, the most important in my opinion, is communication of research through meetings and through speaking to scientists in other countries. And it was at one of these meetings that I believe the biggest impact of my research has happened. So at a conference in Galway, I started a collaboration with Professor Michael O'Dwyer, and he's the director of the Blood Cancer Network of Ireland. And after seeing some of our initial results, Professor O'Dwyer thought that this research could really be beneficial in a clinical trial that he had currently started in Galway. So what we are doing in this clinical trial is we're using chemotherapy that's currently used in the lab in a very different way. We use it at very, very low doses, and we examine patients by taking a blood sample before they get the chemotherapy and after they get the chemotherapy, in the hope that this will improve patient outcomes. And then we monitor the immune cell activation after this drug therapy. And what we have found really excitingly is that in 24 hours after receiving the drug, that as you can see here in the first graph, immune cell activation is increased after chemotherapy in just 24 hours. And even more surprisingly, the immune cells have a better ability to kill cancer cells after that therapy. And these, while they're in a small number of patients, they're very encouraging. As a result of this, we now have clinical trials in both Europe and the US, which have been informed by our original findings. So that means that Irish patients will now have will be able to be enrolled in trials in both Europe and the US, and will have access to the drugs that they currently don't have access to in Ireland. Additionally, we will be presenting this data at the largest American Society of Hematology conference in the US next week. And what I would like to finish up by saying is that, and thank the Irish Cancer Society for their original investment in my research, which I have been able to build upon and to get more money from both industry and from Science Foundation Ireland to continue this really important work, because as the previous speakers indicated, the patients are the centre of our world and the centre of why we do research. Thank you.